Kick your feet up and relax like we chillin' on a boat. Let me save you in the world, I'm a superhero. Want it, get it, got it, good. You don't gotta speak English to get it understood. It ain't nothing you the one, you the Robin to my hood. Me and you until the end, that's how it is and how it should be. Cause I like the way you make me feel. I like the way you bad for real. I like the way you make me feel. And I like the way you bad for real. I like the way you feel. I like the way you bad for real. I like the way you make me feel. I like the way you bad for real. Cause my baby got drive. Cause my baby got drive. Cause my baby got drive. Feeling like this love can't change the world. Knowing from the start you a diamond girl. In the rough, off the rough, you take me higher. Feeling like this love gonna change the world. Feeling every day had me from.
All right, KW Milwaukee, here we go on a beautifully 60-degree day in Milwaukee. And not only has the weather popped for spring, something in the market is telling me from a statistical standpoint that we may be here and that the market is starting to tell us that it is opening up for the spring market. And I'll talk about that here towards the end of today's conversation. But we're stoked to be here. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let's get right into it. So we finished up the month of February a few weeks ago, and we have a handful of people to celebrate. Only 3 this month, so I'm going to go through them quickly, but there are 3 incredibly important people. First up, this is a young guy who hit the streets running, came into the industry with an incredible amount of hustle, just trying to make it work, is now starting to see the impact of his network starting to buy with him as first-time home buyers and live and work in the community grew up in. DJ Frisch, congrats on capping in the month of February. Next up, this person, an incredibly generous person, worked for a long time in the nonprofit world, is an incredible sounding board for me on various topics across our industry, across our community, is always willing to give back, has seen an incredible amount of success in a second career for her throughout her time now as a real estate agent. Annie Jerzik, congrats on capping in the month of February. Awesome stuff, Annie J. And then the last one that we're celebrating this month has been with us for 2 years, 2.5 years now. His business is on a rocket ship to the moon. He's helping us build out our Tosa, Elm Grove, Brookfield location that just opened up a week or 2 ago. Paulie, baby, Paul Nikolic, congrats on capping in the month of February. That's it, guys. 3 cappers in the month of February. I know a lot of people have deals in the pipeline. Hope to see more of you capping in the month of March. But for DJ, Annie, and Paul, congrats on capping in the month of February. Cool. Now I want to jump into it. You know, we've had a lot of different changes and different updates as it relates to our organization across Milwaukee, specifically around the 3 locations from Lake Country to our newest location on Innovation Drive, all the way over to the North Shore. And we have a few puzzle pieces and people moving around, and I want to make sure that our group knows who is here to serve them at the highest level at all times. So I'm going to introduce you to a few folks this morning that are either shifting roles, are new to the organization, or are new to maybe some of you who you haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. So what I'm gonna do is provide you, and I'm gonna send this in our weekly insights and resources email. This is the updated org chart across our 3 locations in the Milwaukee area. And a couple people I wanted to point out, you know, in January, we were very, very fortunate enough to bring on Joan Reed to help and support Kimmy here from a compliance broker standpoint. And man, when you talk about the talent between Kimmy, Joan, and Steph, there is not a better collection of talent from a compliance standpoint, I believe, in the industry. Joan's been around in the business for 30, 40 years, is a wizard with contracts, is a great person. So we're stoked to bring her on board. But with some of these changes of opening up TOSA and a few other things, we have two new people that we want to introduce to you today. And first is I want to introduce Britton Keck. Britton is joining us on our team out in Lake Country as the Director of First Impressions, serving out in the Lake Country crew. So Britton, jump on, tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a quick background on your professional history.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Britton Keck. I have a pretty extensive diverse background per se. I came from 4 years of retail management experience all the way to finance and insurance. And then also my last role in the hospitality field, I worked for Marcus Hotels as a sales manager representing the Pfister, the St. Kate, and the Hilton. As you can imagine, hospitality is not as great as real estate last year. So I lost that position, unfortunately, but I'm so glad to be here. I'm about 3 weeks in and everybody has been so kind and I'm really excited to meet everyone.
Awesome. Britton, welcome to KW, guys. Anytime you check out the KW office out in Lake Country, make sure you introduce yourselves to Britton. She's been a phenomenal resource 3 weeks into her role here. Next up, another person I want to introduce you to, and more so of an update for the group, is Megan Casey. We are going to move over to our newest location on Innovation Drive. And Megan, who's been with us for the last 18 months, has really grown into her role, grown into opportunity, and she's really going to be helping us spearhead being the front person to serve the agents within the KW world on Innovation Drive. Abby Matusik was fortunate enough to, she took a new role in the marketing and advertising industry, which she was previously known for. So we're moving Megan over to Innovation Drive. And with that today, I'm super stoked to introduce you to Sydney Warner. Sydney is going to be our newest Director of First Impressions at the North Shore location. And Sid the Kid, as I call her, Sid the Kid, jump on, tell us a little bit about yourself and your professional background.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Sydney. I'm the new Director of First Impressions at the North Shore office. I'm super excited. I've met a handful of you already, but also just very excited to meet everyone and get to know all of you. I grew up in Milwaukee and Whitefish Bay. I went to Marquette University and then moved to Chicago and worked in the Keller Williams office in Lincoln Park with the Weinberg Choi team, originally as their executive assistant right after I graduated, and then transitioned into an agent position. So I've been working as an agent in Chicago for the past year. It's been a great opportunity, but just super pumped to be back in Milwaukee and working with the leadership team and all of you. Excited to get to know all of you.
Cool. Sid the Kid, thank you. We're super stoked to have you. And guys, when you stop into the North Shore office, make sure that you say hello to Sid and introduce yourselves and show your smiling faces when you pull your mask down. But we're stoked to have her on board. And also for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to meet Megan Casey, as she's transitioning over to innovation and help us out there, make sure to introduce yourselves. It's a great collection of 3 young, powerful women who are incredibly talented, and we're super stoked to have them on board on our leadership teams. So guys, that is the latest updates as it relates to our organizational structure, some people updates for you, and just wanted to make sure that our group was aware of everybody who is here to serve you at the highest level to ensure that your success within the marketplace. So we'll make sure that we send this out immediately following in the Insights and Resources email. All right, Mandy, we're throwing you up again up front because we have so much stuff coming up in the month of March and I don't want anybody to miss it. So Mandy, what do we got coming for upcoming training and events?
Great, thanks, Charlie. So just a quick reminder, family reunion is up until April 12th. So all of the recordings are now available, as well as in addition to the recordings, there's a whole files section where you can pull flyers, resources, script books, anything. So not only is the video section a great place, but so is also the resources folder. So check that out. You have until April 12th. So this week in training, tomorrow, Lead Gen Bootcamp by the Hinton Fair Group is, I think, our most watched video on YouTube. They are back tomorrow at 11 doing their Lead Gen Bootcamp. So be sure to check that out. And then I'm going to shoot it over to Amanda and Janine to let us know what we have coming for launch. Amanda, what is happening today at Launch Coaching?
Schroeder.
I'll go to you first, Janine. I see
Hey,
you're ready.
sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead, Amanda.
We are also going to be talking about some lead generation today, more so just getting the basics going. A lot of people have mentioned that they are having a hard time just starting out and asking for contact information, that sort of thing. So we're going to talk about just getting started and give you some good momentum into that boot camp this week.
And Thursday's productivity class, I am interviewing Jay Schmidt. So it's going to be an open question and answer forum after the interview. So I hope everyone shows up. And then in the lead gen corner, we're going to kind of regroup of how we lead generated last week and what worked for the agents and what has worked for me this past week. So hope to see you at 9 o'clock on Thursday.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. And then Maureen and friends, for those of you who are invited to that, that is this Friday at 10 a.m. It's all about how to run your business like a business. So you should have received a calendar invite with that Zoom information. So we'll see you guys on Friday at 10. And then just one thing to note on the March training calendar, you'll notice that Dave Jenks has been removed from the 24th. We all realized it's spring break that week, so don't worry, we're bringing him back in April. Mark your calendars for April 24th. He is not gone, he's just been moved, so everyone enjoy your spring break, and we'll see him in April. A few other things coming up. Register, please, for the WRAs sponsored by Marquette, the Real Estate Summit. This is next Monday. So it's free. It's a virtual event. It's phenomenal. I know Charlie always does a great recap of it, but it's free. So be there, attend. Awesome, great speakers. Registration is open for it. We'll send out the link again to register for that in the recap email, but that is next Monday from 1:30 to 3 via Zoom.
Cool. Guys, one thing I will give a shout out. You have an absolutely unbelievable opportunity to hear from the objection handler himself, Jay Schmidt, on Thursday morning, and you don't need to be a part of the launch group to jump onto that call. So I challenge the group, bring your best objections that you get on any buyer consultation or listing appointment and watch Jay, the master. The guy has the gift of gab, the tongue that can talk anybody into saying yes. Check it out Thursday morning. I think it's a great opportunity for people, whether you've been in the business for 10 years or you're brand new. It's a great opportunity to learn from Jay and Janine and how they handle objections and anything else that they may bring to the table. So make sure you check that out. Little extra plug there. All right, Lindsay, I'm turning it over to you for Tech Tuesdays, and I'm going to jump into your presentation on Google Slides. One sec. All right, Lindsay, it's off to you.
All right, thanks, Charlie. So this week, it's all about the KW Consumer app. So this, if you have not downloaded the app, I highly suggest that you do. There is huge value for both you as the agent and your clients and your consumers. So just one of the things that you can do, so you can brand the app. So it's branded to you as the agent. So next slide, Charlie. It's super easy to do this. You're going to download the app as a consumer, and then you're going to search for your name and select yourself as the agent. So this video right here just kind of shows you really briefly how to do that. And we're going to cover all of this during the tech workshop today. So if your app doesn't look like this with your name twice at the top, you as your agent, this is how you can share the app once it's branded. The best thing about this, so you can text it or email it out to people. The best thing about this is that once you do that, you're going to capture that contact into your database automatically in Command. It's such an easy tool and a piece of value that you can provide to your consumers. So not only can you share it and it tracks, all of their saved searches and collections, you can view all of that information on the back end of Command in that contact detail page. There's huge value for your consumers. And these are some great talking points. Everybody has some sort of real estate search app on their phone. Why not it be yours? Get rid of Zillow, get rid of Realtor.com. The next time one of your clients sends you a property through Zillow or Realtor.com or heck, Shore West app, tell them about your app, share it with them. It's so easy to do. It's a full IDX search. It's exactly what they're going to see on any other real estate app, but there's more. There's an entire buyer and seller guide directly built into the app. So it's a proactive approach. So instead of them coming to you and saying, what's next? you can refer them to this and say, look at a couple steps ahead. This is what the process is going to look like. So if you're interested in learning more about the inspection process or the appraisal process, refer them to the app. It's right there. The best thing about this is that you can actually customize it. So it's built out already, but you can customize it and to have it fit your business. So this is what this buying and selling guide looks like. As you can see, you can actually go in here and your client can mark steps as completed so they can kind of be organized and keep track of where they are with this process. And it's just a great way for you to communicate with them too. So we're going to talk about all of this and more during our tech workshops today, and even more value pieces. So I'm not even like scratching the surface with this. So today's workshop is at the North Shore again, 1 o'clock in the downstairs training room. And then I'll be back in Lake Country on Thursday at 11 a.m. In the upstairs training room. And if you guys aren't able to make these two, there are similar trainings up on the YouTube channel, but if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We can always set up a one-on-one if you have more questions too.
Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. We appreciate it. Guys, one of the things I will challenge you with as you think about your business, and this is what I'm going to get into here in a second, is how are you creating an ecosystem for your clients? And I'll get to that in a sec, but I would write that on a piece of paper. How am I creating an ecosystem for my clients to create a client for life? And the app is a major piece to allow you to do that. So check it out with Lindsay. And if you have questions or you need help, she's always available for one-on-one. So don't hesitate to connect with her. All right, guys. So my goal today is last week, Wednesday morning, Gary Keller and Jay Papazan did their vision speech for 2021. There was incredible content across the vision speech, across almost 2 hours of content and insights and resources. And what I did is I boiled this down to say, great, of the 2 hours of content and over 60 slides, what are the most important things that I think are relevant to our group that can help them, A, challenge their thinking, and B, help them build a bigger business in the ways in which they approach this business, right? I would challenge you to really kind of lean in, listen hard, because my goal this morning is to really challenge the way you think about your approach to this business in order for you to succeed at the highest level. Again, leaders, really good leaders, are challenging their people in the way they think. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned from Gary and Jay and listening to them over the years. And so my goal is to kind of bring it back to you and boil it down even further as to what I thought was the most relevant content to make you think, right? So I want to start it off by unemployment. We're going to start big, and we're going to talk about the macro economy and how it impacts our industry. And then we're going to start moving smaller. We're going to talk about home buyer and seller profiles across the Milwaukee market. And then I'm going to challenge you as it relates to your ecosystem. And are you creating an ecosystem for your client? So here, instead of going into all the details around the macro economy and what's going on with our industry, I pulled a few slides to provide some commentary. What you'll see here is the unemployment and income by sector across various times, right? What you see in orange is the unemployment of August of 2020. What you see in purple is the unemployment by January of 2021. So what they did was they pulled this from when they talked about it in Mega Camp, and then they pulled it from when they looked at it again in January of 2021 as a comparison sake. And then what you see in the light blue bar is weekly earnings as of December 2020. What you'll find here and what you'll continue to see is really kind of threefold. First of all, it is very clear that those that earn the most amount of money in our economy are those that have been impacted the least by unemployment over the last 12 months. What you can see here on the far left is financial activities. Again, blue bar is as it relates to weekly earnings as of December of 2020. Professional businesses and services, which is what the real estate industry falls into. There's wholesale trade, there's construction, then there's manufacturing. And you can see the correlative effect of unemployment. Again, orange is August, purple was as of January, and you can see unemployment really decreased from August to December, which is really positive. But you can see, again, anything below 3 3.5–4% of unemployment, it's a fully employed industry, right? And so you can see, first of all, one, those that make the most amount of money have had the least amount of impact as it relates to unemployment, and those that were impacted by unemployment, if you look at wholesale, professional services, and even financial activities, unemployment has improved really in the last 4 to 5 to 6 months. Where the opposite impact happened was with the construction trades. Unemployment actually went up a little bit as construction slowed a little bit. But here's where the real focus is. And this is where a lot of, when you talk about COVID relief money and the trillions and trillions of dollars that are being pumped into global economies across the world, what they're really trying to help and impact is the far right side of the screen, where you can see here retail trade and leisure and hospitality, the two industries where people make the least amount of money on a weekly basis. Unemployment impacted them the most, right? So what you're seeing from a global economy, and I talked about this from a friend of mine who runs fiduciary management downtown, was, the trillions and trillions of dollars that are being pumped into the economy right now to really buffer what is going on is really to protect those that make the lowest amount of income, as unemployment has impacted them the most. And granted, it's still extremely, extremely high across some of these industries, and yet there is room of noticeable improvement. I mean, when leisure and hospitality in August was at 21% and it dropped down to 15.9% in December. So again, it's very, very much tales of two different things that are happening here as it relates to the K-shaped recovery, and the various other levers that governments across the world are pulling to impact. And again, why is this important to me as a real estate agent? Because you have to remember, these are all buyers and sellers. These are all buyers and sellers. And the more that we can help these people and get unemployment in our economy back on track as it relates to what's happening globally, all betters the state of our industry and the state of supply and demand within the residential real estate. Here, as it relates to unemployment and housing by age, very, very interesting statistics here. So before, we talked about it by trade. Here, we're breaking it down by age. And what you'll find here is, yes, while 35 and over, the 35 and over crowd made up 74% of home purchases, they were also the least impacted by unemployment during all of this. So if this is the January 2021 unemployment rate was 5.3%. Again, 4% is pretty much a fully employed economy. So the 35 and plus age, which is the percentage, and they have 74% of the annual home purchases, is pretty much a fully employed economy, which is part of the reason why, you saw the housing industry have such a major rebound in a major way June through December of last year. When you consider here 25 to 34, these are really our first time home buyers. 23% of the market who bought homes in the last year, annual percentage of home purchases was the ages of 25 to 34. Unemployment was 6.8%. So again, impacted more so than those who were over 35. And those who were 24 and younger were impacted the most through unemployment, yet they only made up 3% of our industry. So again, this is more so the explanation as to how the housing industry has really been able to stay steadfast in their resolve in terms of how successful the industry was in 2020. And it's simply correlative to the fact that those in younger demographics were impacted the most by the unemployment effects of everything that's been going on within our economies. Right? When you look at it from a GDP standpoint on a quarterly basis, I'm not going to go too deep into this, other than the fact that across 2 quarters, we had never seen a GDP decrease this swiftly and this quickly, even going back to 2008. It was a gradual decline in GDP, and we never saw something as low as down 31%, but we've also never seen a spike back this quickly either at up 33%. So the impact this had on an annual basis is down 3.5%. And over the last 30 years, This is the largest decrease in GDP we've seen on record in the last 30 years. And even in 08, 09, the biggest decrease we saw was down 2.8%. So there, again, looking at it was a very steep decline, but a very steep upcline. Again, all healthy as it relates to how quickly the economy has recovered. And while, yes, this isn't tremendous, they'd expect that in 21 that this should come back again, going back to the trillions and trillions of dollars that have gone back into the economy through a lot of the relief efforts that global governments have provided. All right, home sales. Now getting into the residential real estate sector. What you have to know here is if you look at the 5 years running up pre-08, the 5 years running up to the pre-08 market, it was one of the healthiest 5-year stretches it is in the residential real estate market. There were 28.2 million homes sold. If you then look at what happened over the previous 5 years, really looking at it starting in 2016 and coming into 2020, there were 27.3 million homes that were sold. There's only 900,000 less homes sold in the previous 5 years than the 5 years we saw running up to the 08. The biggest thing here was the biggest message that I took away from Gary and Jay was if 2020 was a tough year for you, you need to reevaluate your lead generation and business activities today. There needs to be an immediate sense of urgency around what it is that you're doing if you had a tough year in 2020, knowing that there were 5.6 million homes sold in across the US. Their message was you have to be consistent over time and you need to stay time on task. Be consistent and stay time on task as it relates to your activities because they do foresee this this trend continuing, and we'll show you here their predictions for the market in 21. But this trend is going to continue in terms of a very robust residential real estate market. So they very much were saying if you had a tough year in 2020, you really need to reevaluate what you did around your lead generation and your business activities in order to take advantage of the market of the moment. Next up is the annual home prices and annual appreciation. Here's what you need to know, and this is breaking it down across various segments. From the last 4 to 5 years, home appreciation was growing at 5.79%. Last year, appreciation across the US was 9%. I expect 21 to be very similarly in terms of home appreciations above the average of 5.79%. I see it around 6% to 7% in 21, but no, in 2020 it was up 9%. That's a very healthy appreciation as we look ahead into 21. Couple things then they talked about again as it relates to government and its inaction to helping people and as how is it going to correlate into our industry. There was a couple things. One, they predicted another relief bill, which I believe was just passed this week, with more direct payments to people as well as tax breaks provided for people. Again, this matters to us. This helps those on the right-hand side of that chart I showed earlier that make the least amount of money and that were impacted the most by unemployment. And knowing that usually across the US, the number one thing for debt, outside of credit card and student loan debt is mortgage payments. And so you're going to start the relief bill is really going to help our industry as it relates to mortgage forbearance and other things like that, help people through these times that are being impacted the most who make the least. The other thing that hasn't been submitted, but they're expecting to come down the pike with the new administration is a tax bill. And the number one thing that they're paying attention to as it relates to our industry is the first-time homebuyer tax credit. Remember, there was one that came about right after the 08 crash, and it brought a brief surge in 2009 and 2010 of her first-time buyers. And if this happens again, get ready for demand to rise further as it relates to first-time home buyers. Hint, hint, last year in the Milwaukee metro market, I looked at the research this morning, 41% of all home buyers were first-time home buyers. So if we see a tax credit coming down the pike, I would be thinking to myself, what am I doing and what are my lead generation activities and how am I setting myself up for this surge in potential new first-time home buyers, and how am I educating them on the process so that they trust me as their valued resource through this process. Something to think about if this tax bill comes through and we hear about first-time home buyer tax credits. There will be a surge in first-time home buyers. Now, as it relates to industry opportunity in residential real estate across the entire US, here's a couple things I want to point out. And these are some very interesting facts, and I'm going to play a little bit of Jeopardy here. So I need your guys' participation. But here's what you need to know. Last year in the US, there were 328 million people who lived within the US. There were 128 million households. Of that, 83 million of them owned the home that they lived in, right? And last year, there were 5.6 homes that were sold for $84 billion in commissions paid to our industry. So my question to you is this, and I'm going to ask you to utilize the chat section, fill it up for me, is what are you competing for? What are you competing for? Of these statistics that I shared, what do you believe to be the most important statistic? All the billions. Close, Jay. Ross Trefford, I love it. Annie Jerzyk, Lisa Eastman, I see you. Thank you for participating. It's this right here. It's the 83 million homeowners, right, guys? 83 million homeowners is what we're competing for. The industry's problem is everybody thinks they're chasing this number, 5.6 million. That's wrong. That's why this business is all built on the database. And so when they broke this down and they talked about it, are you competing for the 5.6 million homes that were sold, or are you competing with the 83 million homeowners in order to earn the 84 billion? Right? And your goal is to create a realtor. Your goal is to be the realtor for someone's life, right? And so my takeaways from this conversation was keep your eyes on the big picture. Why? Because you want to be someone's realtor for life, and you're not trying to have a great year. You're trying to have a great career. You are not trying to have a great year. If you're trying to have a great year, go chase 5.6 million homes that were sold across the US. You are trying to have a great career, which is why your database, your sphere of influence, and how you market your database to the 83 million homeowners is how you set up a great career, right? And be careful with decisions that are made with short-term gain in mind. So here you go, annual forecast, what's coming down the pike and where do they see the industry going in 2021? Again, in 2020, 5.6 million homes were sold. They see that there's going to continue to be a growth of around 4.6% or 5 million homes sold in 2021, with median price points appreciating again. Last year was 9%, this year being 7%, and they actually don't foresee the months of supply inventory issues getting any better at all in 2021. So those are kind of some of the predictions and some of the things that you should be thinking about. Again, 83 million homeowners. How are you connecting with them? How are you marketing to them in order to earn the opportunity at the 84 billion in commissions? All right, now I'm going to jump into the the profile of home buyers and sellers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So what this data is this is the National Association of Realtors does a big study around home buyers and sellers. I was able to get my hands, and typically we provide this data at a national level. Fortunately, through our friends at GMAR, they were able to provide this data to me at a local level through Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So these are local level insights for you as to who is buying and selling homes in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Again, my challenge to you is to make you think in the ways in which you approach this business in order to earn the $84 billion in commissions being paid out across our industry. So here we go. Starting it off, here's the buyer profile in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Couple things to note. 41% of buyers in Milwaukee last year were first-time home buyers. Here's the Milwaukee profile for the buyer profile. The average age was 39 years old, while on a national average, it was 47 years old. So what does that tell me? A, we over-index on first-time home buyers, and B, we also have a much younger demographic that is getting into the home buyer pool in Milwaukee, being the average age was 39 years old. As it relates to relationship status, 52% were married couples, 20% were single female, 11% were single male, and 13% were unmarried couples as it relates to relationship status of the Milwaukee buyer profile. As it relates to desire to own a home was the primary reason someone purchased a home at 38%. This over-indexed in the Milwaukee market over versus 29%. So again, what is my takeaway in this? Is that people understand the financial stability that homeownership provides to them in their long-term wealth building, and using and viewing real estate as an asset to build their home, and seeing that 38% was the primary reason if someone wanted to own a home versus nationally at 29% is a very healthy statistic for us here in the Milwaukee market. Interesting to note, 8% were veterans. Only 8% of the marketplace on buyers were veterans in the Milwaukee market, 1% of them being active military. That's not totally surprising. We don't have an active military base all that close by, while 18% were nationally. So just something to point out there. Then moving into the characteristics of homes that were purchased, again, on the buyer side, right? New construction made up only 4% of the Milwaukee market in last year in 2020, while the national average is 15%. Part of our inventory issues and its inability to alleviate some of the pressures that we're seeing is simply the fact that home startups and new construction in the Milwaukee market it continues to remain very soft. A lot of various factors that go into that. And that tells in the fact that only 4% of the market was new construction last year. So another interesting fact for you, the median distance between homes purchased and where they moved from was only 10 miles in the Milwaukee market. So again, if someone who is moving, whether they're owning or renting, they're only moving 10 miles away if they bought another home in the Milwaukee market, while the national average is a little bit further at 15 miles. Right? And interesting to note, on the front end, buyers expect to live in their home for only 12 years in the Milwaukee market. Again, this is more of their mental mindset. They expect to live in the home for 12 years, while the national average is 15 years. However, we'll talk about this on the backside as it relates to the seller profile. Typical selling cycles in the Milwaukee market end up being 7 to 10 years in reality. So while they think they're going to be there for 12 years, they only end up being there for 7 to 10. Interesting to note. Also, another reason why you should know exactly and should be tracking your prior deals closings and their anniversary dates, so that you can then predict when you think they may be selling, if people in Milwaukee are selling on average every 7 to 10 years. Something I would be tracking and paying attention to as it relates to how I touch my database is their anniversary date of when they closed. Next, home buying and real estate professionals, right? So what are buyers and real estate professionals? What are some of the nuggets that I took away from the insights here? First, 96% of all buyers were represented through an agent last year in 2020 versus 88% nationally. And might I remind you, 88% was an all-time high across the industry in the US. In the fact that we are seeing 96% of all buyers in the Milwaukee market are represented through an agent is a very, very, very healthy thing for all of us in our industry. 2, it means that people value your representation. 2, 45% of buyers found their agent through a referral. 45% of buyers found their agent via referral. And get this, 78% of buyers only interviewed one agent during their home search. 45% found their agent via referral, and 78% only interviewed one agent. Again, if I'm an agent, I'm thinking to myself, knowing this, how am I leveraging and activating a very strong referral network of like-minded individuals who can help me build my database and my business? Next, 91% would recommend their agent again. So again, when I see this is all healthy for me in the industry. 96% were represented through an agent, and 91% would recommend their agent again. Really, really healthy. It means people are valuing and respecting your fiduciary to represent them through the transaction. Now, let's take a look at the seller profile across Milwaukee, Wisconsin. When I say Milwaukee, Wisconsin, just so you guys know too, this is southeastern Wisconsin. This is from Waukesha all the way down to Kenosha, up to pretty much Washington area as it relates to the data profile of these individuals. But here's your seller profile for southeastern Wisconsin. 1, the average or the median age of a seller in southeastern Wisconsin is 45 years old. So again, if we think back to what I just talked about, the average age of a buyer is 39. The average age of a seller is 45. What does that tell us? It fits right within that they're selling every 7 to 10 years, right? It's a 6-year difference. Second, the most commonly cited reasons for selling. Home was too small at 16% of the time. They wanted to move closer to friends or family at 15%, job relocation at 15%, or change in family situation at 13%, right? Sellers typically lived in their homes for 10 years. And again, I say the range is 7 to 10 years. And 86% of transactions utilized an agent to sell. 86% of transactions utilized an agent to represent them. So 96% on the buyer side, 86% on the seller side. That means there's a 14% gap, 14%. And last year there were 41,000 homes that were sold across the Metro MLS. And at 14%, that meant there's another 5,700 units that are available for the taking for our agents to go get new listings. 5,700 listings last year didn't utilize an agent. That's lots of opportunity for our group, but 86% utilized an agent to sell their home. And then lastly, very interesting fact, and many of you are feeling, and I'm seeing it across, the energy that's being put out by you guys, is homes are only lasting on the market an average 1 week in Milwaukee, from list when it went active to when it was active with offer. It lasted 1 week, while the national average was 3 weeks. So our inventory is moving extremely, extremely fast in southeastern Wisconsin. And then one more, 68% of sellers were satisfied with the experience. Here is a very interesting, something that I would be paying very, very much attention to. And this as it relates to your client experience and customer service. 86% of transactions utilized an agent, okay? 68% of them, only 2/3 of them were satisfied with the experience. It means there are a lot of agents who are not providing exemplary customer service and an exemplary client experience. If I think we have an opportunity to improve in our market, it is to provide an exemplary client experience to improve this number. The other part of it that I found really interesting is on the buyer side, 91% were satisfied with their agent. 91%, but on the seller side, 68% were satisfied with their experience. So again, if I'm a heavy listing agent and I want to become someone's realtor for life, I would be evaluating my client experience all the way through the transaction. Because if 1/3 of all sales, which again, 41,000, were unsatisfied sellers, it means there's roughly 14,000 sellers last year in the Milwaukee Metro MLS that were unsatisfied with their agent and are most likely probably going to become orphan clients, and somebody else is going to pick them up for their next transaction. So again, I would challenge the group to get really good with your client experience and your client interaction and the customer service that you provide throughout the experience. And then lastly, sellers and real estate professionals, there are some major nuggets in this data right here. And it goes back to referrals, referrals, referrals. So let's jump into it. What did sellers and their relationship with real estate professionals look like? 72% of people found their agent to list their homes via referral from a friend, neighbor, relative, or they had worked with previously. 72% found their agent via referral. Right? Again, opportunities. How are we leveraging our referral network? 80% only contacted one agent. Again, national average was 75%. So what does it mean? 80% of people only contacted one agent to list their homes. Essentially, people are not interviewing agents. Once you get contacted, you have the opportunity to seal the deal. Be very confident in your value proposition and ask for the sale, and don't leave without the listing paperwork signed. If 80% of people in southeastern Wisconsin are only contacting one agent, ask for the sale. Next, 99% of homes were listed on the Metro MLS. Very interesting to note, it was like 88% across the US. So our marketplace very much values the tool that the Metro MLS provides, not only, consumers, real estate professionals, and everything else. 99% of homes were listed on the Metro MLS. Now, referrals, the typical, get this, and this is where you should think about your systems, is it not only relates to your client experience, but then also on the backside of how you're asking referrals. In southeastern Wisconsin, the typical seller has referred their agent 2 times since selling their home. 2 times. Your sellers are referring you as an agent 2 times since selling their home. If you are not getting 2 referrals from every seller, you need to think about how you're asking for referrals throughout the process. And also, get this, 38% of sellers recommended their agent 3 or more times since selling their home, right? 38% of sellers recommended that their agent 3 or more times since selling their home. What am I going to challenge you with thinking? All listings have babies. How are you tracking your babies? How are you correlating it to organic growth for you and your business? And then how are you integrating it to your systems and processes to ensure that you're capturing the referrals that are coming from those that you just served? All listings have babies. I need you to think about your systems and processes for organic growth. So that's it as it relates to home buyers and sellers profile. Again, I'll send all this information out, and Diana will send it out as well in the follow-up email of the KW Weekly Insights and Resources email. All right, last thing that I'm going to jump into as it relates to the vision speech and various impacts in terms of what I consider to be eye-popping statistics to make me think, was this concept that they talked around the path of innovation. Right? And there's three sorts of types of innovation in which we're developing right now. And I want you to think broader and bigger than just KW and Command or just Zillow or whatever it may be. There's three ways in which you as a business can continue to innovate, or you will be disrupted. And there's one is unique value, right? You're one of a kind, unlike anything else. Yes, you're unique, but you're not that unique. Two is your mutually exclusive value. You have unique value that when chosen excludes or precludes wanting or needing anything else, okay? Or you become an ecosystem, right? You become an ecosystem. And so what do I mean by that? Unique value is and, right? So, I can get this and that. I can choose Joe and I can choose Jim. Mutually exclusive becomes I can choose Joe or Jim, right? I'm not going to work with both. Or ecosystem is the only and the realtor for life. And so how do I correlate this, or how did, I guess not me, how did Gary and Jay correlate this to other industries and which I thought about this, was this. Unique is Amazon Video, it's Netflix, it's Disney, it's Hulu, right? In our household, we have Amazon Video, we have Netflix, we have Disney, we have Hulu. Why? Because they provide unique platforms, but they're not mutually exclusive. I have them all, right? And so as you think about it, in Southeastern Wisconsin, the average person knows 12 real estate agents. A lot of agents are unique. They're unique people. They provide unique things, but everybody knows 12 of them, and they may be playing each other off of each other. Okay, something to think about. Two, there's mutually exclusive, right? There's Amazon Prime. There's nobody else, but there's no other system that people use as it relates to free shipping. You know, you're either an Android person or you're an iPhone person. You don't usually have both. Think about mobile banking. You usually bank at one bank and you use mobile banking in one way. You don't have multiple mobile banking platforms to pay all your bills. It just doesn't make sense, right? Now I want you to think about an ecosystem. And I want you to think about an ecosystem as it relates to how Amazon, how Google, and how Apple provide value to people's lives, right? And I'll use myself and my household as an example, and I'll use Apple, okay? What do I mean by Apple? Megan and I have iPhones. Megan and I have iPads. Megan and I have MacBook Airs. We are a part of the ecosystem. Now let's use our household as it relates to Google. We have Nest cameras. We have a Google Home. We have Sonos, which is integrated into our Google platform. We have the Google Nest internet, thing that expands the internet in our house. Okay. Now let's think about ecosystem as it relates to Amazon. We buy groceries through Amazon. We buy clothes through Amazon. You can buy pretty much anything else through Amazon, right? How are you as a real estate agent becoming an ecosystem for your clients so that they have to go nowhere else for the services they need within the real estate transaction, right? How are you providing an ecosystem or such an elevated client experience where that they don't need to go anywhere else for your services? And if you think about this on a broader, bigger scale, KW as a brokerage is trying to do this for you, right? That you don't need to be in a relationship with anybody else or whatever it may be, by providing you all of this information or providing you with the systems and platforms for you to then create the ecosystem you need for your database so that your database doesn't need to go to the 11 other agents that they know, and that your database views you as their realtor for life. And so my challenge in all of this and all of this data that I just presented and everything that we just took away from the conversations that have been had from family reunion now to the vision speech is then what do you do with it, and how are you challenging your systems and processes in order to capture the $84 billion in commissions that are being paid out? And how are you creating an ecosystem around your database so that, great, when I have home maintenance issues, they know to call you. Great, when I have home improvement issues, I know to call you. When I want to begin that search for my child's first home and I'm trying to help them move into the area, how do I know that I am referring my child to you as a first-time home buyer, right? How are you managing all aspects of the transaction, pre-transaction, during the transaction, and post-transaction to create an ecosystem for clients? That's my challenge to you in 21 and 22, right? And leveraging this data to understand how you plan to change your business in order to capture it. So there was a lot to unpack there. I thought it was super vital and important. I know that, this conversation was a 2-hour long conversation, but I wanted to kind of boil it down as to what I thought was the most important for you guys in order to capture the information for your businesses. So, my last couple takeaways as it relates to the ecosystem is people are using agents now more than ever. 91% on the buyer side, all these sorts of stats are jumping in my head, but I'll send them out afterwards. But people are using agents now more than ever. And the complexity of information and process creates necessity for your profession and fiduciary, right? I want you to understand that. Complexity information and the process of residential real estate creates necessity for your profession and your fiduciary. It's, again, even more of a reason why we need to help you create your ecosystem of the process to the transaction to serve your clients. All right, guys, I'm wrapping it up with market insights and what's going on within the market. And I kind of alluded to in my text this morning, the spring market may be here. How do I know? Let's check this out. Showing time activity over last week, guys, it popped in a major way. And you can see we have now surpassed the peak of what we saw in the beginning of March of 2020. And I continue, especially as it relates to year-over-year trends, I bet I continue to see this moving forward. And between March and April, I'm not going to be comparing of what happened in 2020. We'll be looking at what happened in 2019, which is right here in the light blue line. So again, the market popped in the last couple of weeks as it relates to showing activity. And you can see here, these are incredible trends that relates to buyer showing activity. Next, sales absorption rate, percentage of inventory under contract on a weekly basis. Yet again, for like the third or fourth week in a row, it peaked. It is the highest it's been. 14.1% of the total inventory went under contract last week. Again, it's an indication of demand. We are starting to see the upswing. Notice in all these graphs, the Polynear line of what relates to the upswing in the marketplace. 2, units that went under contract, 512 units went under contract in the 5-county southeastern Wisconsin metro area, right? That you're starting to see it pop, guys. I'm telling you, the spring market, it always happens kind of in March, but it's been a little bit delayed this year. 512 units that went under contract. We're going to continue to monitor this trend activity. Next, new listing inventory. This is the best news I've shared with you guys in weeks. 520 new units came to the market last week. This is the most amount of new inventory that has occurred since Halloween of last year. 520 units came to the marketplace. And the big news, new inventory exceeded units that went under contract by 8 units. It's not a ton, but it's a win. And you can see here as it relates to linear trends and what the market is telling us is we're on the upswing as it relates to new inventory units. Again, 520 last week, new inventory units, compared to the last time we saw that was the week of Halloween with 519. Very, very positive net trends. I'll continue to be paying attention to this moving forward. And then lastly, total inventory levels. Here's what I would say. We potentially may have hit rock bottom. And what I mean by that is once you hit rock bottom, you have nowhere to go but up. And if you see here, we're starting to see a 3-week trend where it's starting to level off in terms of total inventory on the marketplace. And based on new units inventory that's coming to the marketplace being 512 last week, I am hopeful that over the next 30 to 60 days, you will start to see total inventory begin to trend up. Again, some of it's based on sales absorption and how quickly homes are going on the marketplace and how quickly homes are coming to the marketplace, but it's all very, very positive news, and the trends are very, very positive as it relates to that. So Guys, that's it. It was a ton of information to unpack this morning. I tried to give you the Cliff Notes, most important relevant statistics that are relevant to not only our macro economy, but to our local economy and how it all correlates to the residential real estate market here in southeastern Wisconsin, and how we're challenging you to think about your ecosystem to make clients for life, to capture the 83 million homeowners that paid 84 billion in commissions. So with that, I'm wrapping it up. Lake Country crew, I'll let you jet over to the Lake Country meetup. North Shore crew, North Shore and Tosa, I will switch over to the coming soon and new listings and buyer needs. So guys, have a great Tuesday. Thanks for jumping on.